We said this wouldn't end well. This situation with Lula provoking the President of the United States, Donald Trump. And Xandão, right, automatically wanting to remove Eduardo Bolsonaro from this year's political race. That's all it is. That's obvious, clear, crystal clear for everyone to see. Well, analysts are already warning that after the victory in Colombia, after everything we've seen in these last few days, Eduardo was urgently called to the White House. In a hurry. And now, Lula is practically an enemy of the President of the United States. From what we saw last week, at the moment, Inácio was there begging, pleading, practically, right, doing everything he could to try to get a meeting with Trump, a bilateral, something he couldn't get. Xandão went there, right, doubled down. Of course he's always going to do that. One thing is easy. The thing is that Lula will always do his own special crap, and Xandão will always double down. He went there and condemned Eduardo Bolsonaro. Crime! None of this was his imagination. They believe they own Brazil and can do whatever they want. But that's how it was. Come on, that's a joke, right? Us being subordinate to these people is a joke. They didn't really count on Trump. I'll show everything here. Lula, once again, I'm saying it here, is already seen as the new Nicolas Maduro, okay? Hit the like button, come be part of our family, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to share. Share this video a lot because it really helps our work here. And don't forget to subscribe. Guys, first, I want to share an opportunity. I'm going to show you here, Zinho and Ferber. I always post videos here that I made in the past few days. 2 kilos in a day. Then people say, no, it's just water and stuff. Look at the images. Look at my face. Look at my face. I only sell the product here that I fully trust. Look at my face. Look at my image. This here has been months, not even a year. It's only been months, not even a year. I know what I'm talking about. Look at my pants. My pants. Look how loose they are. And look, they're already here. I don't wear a belt, see? You can fit a hand in here. The product works, obviously. The person has to have, discipline. Diet. It's like this. We have to make a plan, but it helps a lot, guys. I lost 20 kilos, right? After 40, it's harder for us to lose weight. It really is harder, even practicing physical activity every day. And I do. I wasn't able to lose weight. Focus, discipline, I managed to lose it. The images speak for themselves. Look at my face. My face is totally different, right? So, it's worth it. If you don't want to miss this opportunity, it's an easier way. Natural. Extremely natural. It's a little powder that you add, right? Especially to those greasy meals. It will help you eliminate fat, lose inches. The link is right below. A great opportunity to lose weight in a healthy way, with a change in quality of life. Totally. Pants that didn't fit before start to fit. Our self-esteem gets much higher. That's the fact, right? The link is right below for anyone who doesn't want to miss this opportunity to lose weight today, okay? It's here in Folha de São Paulo. Here, take a look. The election in Colombia totally changes the configuration here in South America. You're the only one left, Lulina. You're the only one left to fall. And Flávio went there too. He was summoned as well, right? At the White House to speak at a meeting, at a hearing in the United States as well, to talk about the tariff issue. He's the one who will save Brazil. Look.
I'm afraid that this election result in Colombia will be widely used in the election campaign in Brazil. Even more so than perhaps Javier Milei in Argentina. Because, as Josias rightly said, Milei managed to contain inflation. But the Argentine economy hasn't taken off. There isn't a flood of investment. So Milei serves as a reference for the Brazilian right, but only up to a certain point. But de la Espriella, like Noboa in Ecuador and Bukele in El Salvador, with very strong interference from the United States, I think will be much more functional. Because
Just like it was in El Salvador, Australia will do that in Colombia as well. Build maximum security prisons, put the FARC in jail. And then he'll set an example here. And he's taking over now, okay? He's already taking office there in Colombia. So everything changed. The media is desperate, really desperate. Radical right, radical right. He comes to power in Colombia with Trump's support. Guys, radical right. They call Bukele a dictator. We have Alexandre de Moraes, who arrests innocent people. And we have Bukele, who arrests criminals, highly dangerous bandits. Like Lula, he can't walk on the street. The other has 95% approval from his people. Is he the dictator? Is he the dictator? Anything that goes against organized crime is called radical, is called extreme. Lula is the moderate one. Can you believe it? You never see a video of this stooge without him attacking everything and everyone. He says the worst nonsense, the biggest atrocities. Moderate. Moderate. That's how it is. The press is disgusting, and it's falling apart all over the world. Over there in Spain, Lula's biggest ally in Europe after France, first France, and then Spain, right? The leaders, not the people. The wife of the prime minister there, she's forbidden to leave Spain after several cases of corruption. That's the left. That's the left. The judge ordered Begana Gomez to hand over her passport and face investigation for embezzlement, influence peddling, corruption in business, and misappropriation of funds. Yesterday, the Prime Minister of England was falling. In other words, it's a general situation. The left is practically being wiped out all over the world. Nobody can stand these people anymore, right? Nobody can stand them anymore. Amid all this, look at this fantastic news. Trump made the largest seizure of tons of cocaine hidden in wood. In wood, right? But it was the police. It was the police. Because who do you think they're putting pressure on? Who do you think they're pressuring, right? The police to do this. It's from the United States, but not the federal police. It's the state police. It's the state police. There's a lot of pressure. They're giving everything up. Look at that. American intelligence checkmated the drug trafficking, the seizure, the white powder. It was historic on the border between Brazil and Bolivia. Bolivia, which now has a right-wing president. A real turning point indeed. Everything is changing very fast. Very fast, okay? That's the President of the United States. He has toughened his speech again. He stated that ground actions against organizations linked to drug trafficking in Latin America may begin soon. The statement comes amid rising tensions, right? With Venezuela, which already has several military personnel very close to Brazil. Direct military operations, I've already shown here, right? With all the United States intelligence in the region. Washington claims that the measures are part of the fight against a group classified as a drug trafficking organization. The throne is gradually getting closer. That's a fact. He accused Brazilian courts of political persecution. He has already brought Eduardo Bolsonaro's case to the international debate. In other words, things are really complicated. And then, it comes, right? Igor Gadelha yesterday, right? Convicted. Look at what he says here about Eduardo. Convicted. Eduardo goes to Washington for a new offensive against the Supreme Court. No, my son. It's not that he's going. He was summoned. He wasn't convicted. He was summoned by the White House. Federal Congressman Eduardo Bolsonaro landed in Washington yesterday for a series of meetings with members of the government, Donald Trump and members of the Republican Party, members of the Trump administration. Eduardo will mainly focus on his recent Supreme Federal Court conviction in the conversations. It just happened there. And for trying to unlock the return of the magnificent law against Alexandre de Moraes. But this time, it's not going to happen. Only against Alexandre de Moraes, okay? It won't be just against Xandão. Jair Bolsonaro's son, number 03, traveled to Washington, accompanied by journalist Paulo Figueiredo, Now they're calling Paulo Figueiredo a journalist, not a blogger anymore. Well, he really is. Eduardo's right-hand man in the Bolsonaro offensive with Donald Trump's allies. Hold on. When the guy used to go there, his people would go to the United States and all that. Back then, there was no offensive. They were the good democratic debates. The democratic debates that consolidate democracy. When Guilherme Boulos went, guys, no, not in Portugal. Jandira Fegali. Go on, Felipe Neto sending a letter to Biden over there. These guys are calling for a boycott of Brazil. Boycott, total boycott. The artists teamed up with Leonardo DiCaprio, Caetano Veloso to boycott Brazil. That Bolsonaro destroyed the environment. Look at what's happening there. The little forest girl, the minister who came from the jungle. She came from the jungle. It's true, Marina is special because she came from the jungle. Are you taking everyone's cattle there? Are you leaving people out in the cold? People who have owned property there for years? Are these guys mocking us? Are they mocking us? Both of them will have an engagement in the American capital. Right? Yeah. A dinner is planned for Eduardo and Figueiredo with 2020 Republican senators. 20! That's already quite a group, right? The meeting is supposed to help both of them reinforce the narrative of judicial persecution against President Bolsonaro's allies. Narrative, man? It's unbelievable. It's Igor de Terra, right? Just kidding. Gadara. Behind the scenes, Eduardo's allies believe that his conviction by the Supreme Court serves as another argument to convince the Americans that there are alleged excesses by the Brazilian judiciary. Of the Brazilian judiciary. Remembering that many people want to go to the World Cup now, right? From Andressa Matthijs' day, right? She was mentioning, right, the ministers and so on, right? Yeah, look there. Want to see? Let's check here. Lula, could it be? Let's check here, right? The Army members in the 30-year STF reserve did not reach Mendonça's team. It's here, look, want to see? Let's see here, right? The left-wing ministers are desperate to go and attend the cup there, and it seems they can't get in. Trump took their visas and all. Where's Andressa? Where is she? You put this article at the end, right? Here, look. Brazilian Supreme Court justices fear being barred from the World Cup stadium in the United States. The guys are freaking out. They're eager to follow the World Cup in the United States, but they might not be able to. Or they stay at the border. At customs there, you know, at the entrance to the United States, or at the stadiums. Can you imagine how embarrassing that would be? Have you thought about it? What a huge embarrassment. Because we've seen everything, right? In these last few days? Here, look. Flávio signed up to speak against the Tariff at a hearing in the United States. He's already the Brazilian leader. According to people close to the senator, he will defend PX and argue that the tariff would benefit the current government and harm Brazilian exporters. The public hearing will take place on July 6th before the final decision on the 25% tariffs. In other words, the one who will go there to negotiate with the Brazilian producers is Flávio. Flávio will be there in the United States. No one else but him, not another person. Flávio. Imagine Lula reading news like that, huh? Imagine that Flávio is assigned to negotiate the tariffs. Things are pretty complicated for them, okay? A lot is still going to happen, my friends. A lot is still going to happen, as we're seeing. Because they have nowhere else to go, right? There's nowhere to go. Trump, we noticed last week. Lula was desperate, trying in every way to meet with him and all. That embarrassing thing, right? And he got rejected. One after another, rejected. That's why he was nervous. He arrived and argued with the advisors and that lackey Mauro Vieira. He argued with everyone, saying, "You guys can't get anything done." Of course. Guess who was behind all the influence? Rubio. Rubio had already warned Trump, hey, he wants to meet with you so he can score political points back in Brazil with the way things are going and all. And Trump realized that was the case. He never greeted him. They passed each other everywhere they went. He didn't even look at his face. Guys, what a pathetic thing. Lula peaked. He set up an ambush. He set up an ambush just to get a greeting from Trump. When he saw that Trump wasn't going to pay attention to him, he just stood there and made that crappy face. That face that doesn't scare anyone. That doesn't scare anyone, because of course these people are like that, alone. Alone, they're like little lambs. Like little Siamese kittens. Right? Yeah. Now, when they're with that whole gang over there, here in Brazil, after they're no longer next to the President of the United States, then they're like a lion, right? Grrr, go ahead, get closer. Pet me. Pet me, meow. And here, look. Paulinho Figueiredo wrote, I was amazed to see a senator from a state in the interior of the United States speaking with such authority about Brazil, and with details about Moraes' rulings. It feels like the work is being done really well here, right? Over there in the United States. This senator, nothing more, nothing less, right? It's John Kennedy, Kennett. A relative of that former president of the United States, John Fitzgerald Kennett, right? Although he was elected by the state of Louisiana, he knew by heart about the degrading political situation in Brazil. He mentioned Eduardinho here. Look, when I was introduced to him as Bolsonaro's son, he promptly began to describe the scenario of censorship and persecution in Brazil, immediately mentioning the already famous name in American political circles, Alexandre de Moraes. Lula's name is also not forgotten, and the mentions are not positive at all. The event took place during a dinner yesterday in the capital of the United States, Washington, with American senators led by Florida Senator Tom Cotton and the former Afghanistan combatant. Look, the guy is a former combatant, a senator man, over there in Afghanistan, who has excellent articles about Brazilian politics for various media outlets. And accompanied by the businessman of Cuban origin, Morgado, a Cuban refugee who has lived in the United States since he was a child. And, as always, with us, Paulo Figueiredo, who needs no introduction. May God bless Senator Kennett in his re-election this November. Paulinho and Eliev. Amazing, man. He's with Eduardinho in Brazil, right? I've said it here several times, and I'll say it again. Brazil, when all this is over, should owe this young man a lot. The one who started it all was him, Paulo Figueiredo, okay? A lot. I ask you all to share this video. Share it, love. Lula is already seen as mature. Xandão is already in a complicated situation and is dragging everyone else along with him to that same embarrassing situation, okay? I'm back. Remember to subscribe here. Do you have a remote there? Are you watching on TV? If you have a remote, click that little button. Do you know how much that helps us here? It helps a lot, so join our family. The video was great. I'm back here on the Paisa Filos, Fabiano Giguet channel.